Hello and welcome back to the writerlywitterings diabetic podcast. I'll apologise now. I just had an accident with a beard trimmer. As you can see, I've gone all lightweight for the summer. I've never cut all my hair off before, so it's a bit of a strange experience, but never mind, I'm surviving so far. Today I thought it would be interesting to talk a bit about the technology that you can get to measure blood glucose levels. I've mentioned these before. They're fantastic and very clever. The ones that I've used are the Freestyle Libra 2 devices, which come from Abbott Laboratories. They are, as far as I can tell, very reliable. In fact, I can show you one here. This is one of their actual little devices. That's what it looks like. It just sticks to the back of your arm, and all you have to do is hold your phone at the NFC section, whatever, the transfer thing, and it will update your phone immediately about what the blood glucose levels are. But they seem to do a bit more than that, because I've noticed that it will give me readings even when the phone hasn't actually been near it. So I don't know if it constantly measures what your blood's doing and then sends a blip of data when you get your phone near it, so that it will tell you, the phone, this is what it was doing 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, whatever. It could be that. It could be that it's transmitting it somehow by Bluetooth. I don't think that's the case, though, because they're not that clever. This, let's just have a look at the device itself. It's got this sticky white patch. That's what actually sticks it to you. Now, these last 2 weeks at a time, and from personal experience, you can get in the shower. I haven't tried swimming with them, but they do say that they should be fine going swimming. If you take the plastic sticky bit off, then you can see here, he says, trying to get it close, that it is a clever design full of electronic wizardry. There's chips and transmitters and goodness knows what inside there. So these are not cheap devices. I don't think there's a battery of any sort in there. The NFC type connector, I think, means there's no battery. And it's just relying on the fact that this sends out a signal which does something electronically inside that. So they're interesting. What you'll notice is there is a big needle that sticks out. And what you do is, every 2 weeks, you get one of these things, you whack it onto your arm, and it sticks in. Now, this is a video about me putting one on some weeks ago. Now, today I'm talking about, I've got to get this correctly done, continuous glucose monitoring devices. And I've got one here. I will demonstrate this to you shortly when I've cleaned myself up and I'm ready to use it. Inside here is one of these. Whereas usually, if you want to check what your blood glucose level is as a diabetic, I'm a type 2 diabetic, so I need to check it every now and again. Usually I select a finger and stab a hole in it and then squeeze out some blood, and that tells me how much sugar there is in my blood. This way, you stab yourself the once, it stays there. You don't have to keep stabbing yourself, and you don't feel it when you do stab it either. And then with your phone, you tap it on the back of this thing, and it tells your phone exactly what your glucose levels are. That simple and easy. It is marvellous. There are downsides, though. The first biggest one is every 2 weeks you have to pay £50. So it's £100 a month, which means £1,200 a year. If you're a type 1 diabetic, you should be able to get these on the NHS completely free as prescriptions. But if you're a type 2 diabetic, most of the doctors won't issue them because they think you ought to be looking after yourself a bit better. My contention is you can't really tell if you're looking after yourself at all well until you get one of these things and you can actually see what different types of food do to you. So I've taken the approach that I'm going to spend £50 every 3 months, and then every 3 months for 2 weeks I'll be able to monitor exactly what's going on with my blood. And then as often as I can get it done, I'll also have an HbA1c test done by the doctor, which means they'll suck out a load of blood and test that for the glucose that's adhered to the red corpuscles, because apparently red corpuscles will absorb a certain amount of glucose, and then when they get full up, that's it, and it sticks to them. And the red corpuscles are changed every 3 months. So by testing your HbA1c every 3 months, you can tell what the average sort of glucose level has been in the last 3 months. Where these things come in is they show you when you've had a particular spike of glucose. And that can be very important because it's the number of spikes you get and how extreme they are that are likely to show how unwell you're going to get because of eyesight failure, because of vein failure, which may lead to amputations, and all of the other things that can happen with diabetes. So it's not all delightful and joyful, but these things make life an awful lot easier. It is quite possible that there will be something you can just wear as a watch, a Fitbit type thing. Apple are, I know, looking into that, and there's a Welsh company, Afon, which are also trying to do it. If that happens, then depending on how they decide to charge for them, that should make life a great deal easier. But it's probably some way off in the future. So for now, we're stuck with stabbing ourselves still. But at least there are decent ways, and you only stab yourself once every 2 weeks with these things, which is nice. Now, let's get on with showing how to plug it in. Back in a while. Right, so here we are. First of all, as you'll notice, change of clothing. That's because I've had a shower. First thing they say, shut up phone, is to give it a good wipe down with an alcohol wipe and leave it to air dry. Well, that'd be easier if I wasn't so cack-handed, but still, never mind. Here we go, one alcohol cleansing wipe. Oh, that's cold. Right round there. Just make sure the whole area is clean. Leave it to air dry. Now, next thing is you take your sensor pack and peel the lid off. Which is easier said. Gotcha, right. And inside you see this funny thing. If you look at an old one that has been used, it is squished right down the bottom there. So you can tell the difference between them. So having got the lid off there, next thing is to unscrew the cap from the sensor applicator, which is another thing that's easier said than done. And here you go. You've got this funny thing. My sleeve's falling down, therefore making the use of the alcohol wipe rather pointless. Now it says, line up the dark marks on the sensor applicator and sensor pack. There is a mark there and another mark there. So you line those two up and, having lined them up, on a hard surface press down until it comes to a stop. like that. Lift the sensor applicator out of the sensor pack and you're ready to apply the sensor. Except that didn't work. Oh, tell a lie, yes it did. So you can see now that the thing is in there. So now it says you're ready to apply the sensor. Put it over the site, press down firmly to apply. So I'm going to put it right there and press down firmly, it says. Now the nice thing is, did you hear that click? It actually, and now it's applied. The click is because it actually seems to fire it. So you feel this sensation around the ring, but you don't feel the needle going in at all. Which for me, as a complete wimp, is really good news. Now, once you put it in, you have to wait, I think, for an hour. So there's interesting, eh? That's all it takes to put it on. And for 2 weeks, you get continual blood glucose measurements, which is jolly useful. Why is it useful? Well, it's useful because if you've got constant blood glucose measurements, it means that you can tell when you've eaten something what it is that's actually going to cause a spike in your bloods. And what you don't want is too big a spike in your bloods, because if you have a big spike, that's when you start doing damage to your different organs. It means you're doing damage potentially to your eyes, to your nerves, so your feet and your hands. It means various other types of damage can be done to your body. You don't want to have big spikes. You want to keep things on a level with your blood sugars going to about 7.5 and not above. And with these things, you can test what you eat and see how it goes. Now, for example, coming back from Derbyshire about 3 weeks ago, my wife and I stopped at the Gloucester Services Station, which is, if you haven't been there, a wonderful service station. It's a motorway station, but it's delightful. They've got a farm shop. It's run by local farmers and local people, and it's always clean. It's always lovely. The staff are always really good. They have excellent selections of food, and if you ever go there, the sausage rolls are to die for. I am constantly told by my wife, unfortunately I can't eat them because they're full of pastry and stuff, which is a bit bad for diabetes. Still, never mind, I do remember them from times past and they're delicious. However, last time we went there, we were quite late. We'd been travelling for several hours already and we were tired and we wanted some food. So we went in and there were obviously dishes with chips, there were dishes with potatoes, there were dishes with all sorts of stuff that I didn't want to eat. And there was one dish I thought, I don't know if that's good or bad. It was chickpeas, which are good, with sweet potato in a tagine. And I thought, well, I don't know how good or bad sweet potatoes are. Are they better than potatoes or are they worse than potatoes? I've no idea. I had my little doohickey thing stuck on my arm. So I thought, let's find out. So we went in, I had a meal. It was delicious. It was really tasty. And for the next 2 hours, my blood sugars were higher than I think they've ever been, at over 13, nearly 14 at one point, which was rather a shock. So these things are useful because you can monitor yourself. Now, of course, one thing is you can have this thing on. How do you get it off? Here's how you remove them, I discovered. Slightly odd one here. This is the first time I've done this, and I haven't read any instructions that say anything special about it, so I'm assuming that the way you remove these things is just to give them a yank. That is definitely glued on well. But it does come off, leaving just a little pinprick where it was. Very peculiar. So there you have it. You've now seen how to put them on, how to take them off. Really clever dispenser system. Whoops. which you can throw on the floor, and quite intriguing devices. Now, there are rumours of exciting developments on the way. There is a little company you might have heard of called Apple, who have decided that they can have in the bottom of their watch just a little laser that doesn't actually burn your wrist off, but it flashes a light through your skin, and by that means, and very clever computing, it can work out what the blood sugars are like. Astonishing. There's another company called Afon Technology Limited, AFON, and they're developing their own blood glucose monitors, which will have their own little wristband devices, and they again are a non-invasive system. So like Apple shines a laser, there's no need to stab yourself. These things are not based on laser technology, I don't think, but some other type of system. I'm just looking it up on their internet. Suitable for all types of diabetes, gluco-wear, non-invasive, pain-free, real-time results, no time lag, no risk of it falling off. It's based on another watch type system, but in the Afon device, the top is a standard dial, and then you've got the monitor thing underneath. The more devices there are that come out which don't involve having to stab yourself, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Why do I think non-invasive is a brilliant idea? Well, it's not just the fact that I really don't like having to stab myself. It's also that it's expensive. Now, these things are 50 quid a piece, and they last 2 weeks. Now, I can see that there is a lot of technology going into that. You can see there's a lot of technology. The fact that it's reliable means that it's been tested, which is expensive. It's got, years of development and everything behind it. So these things are not cheap. If you've got something, though, that's been invented once and then you just wear it on your wrist and it's non-invasive, so there's no need to worry about a needle getting polluted, there's no need to worry about blood poisoning, it's just something which dangles on your wrist and tells you constantly what your bloods are doing, that is infinitely preferable. It's preferable in terms of hygiene, it's preferable in terms of no pain. Well, come on, folks, if you're diabetic, you don't want to keep stabbing yourself. So, from every perspective, I think it's a really good idea. I am a little bit wary of things like Apple iWatches. Is that what they're called? I am very pleased with my new Apple iPhone. I haven't had this for long. It's the first time I've had an iPhone because I could never justify the cost before. And I'm very happy with it. Having an iWatch is another level. I am not so happy with it because the idea of an iWatch that tells me, have I had enough sleep? What's my blood pressure like? Is my heart rate good? That just means it would turn me into a raving hypochondriac. It would be terrible. So I don't want one. Something like the Afon Technology gluco-wear watch device thing, that's different. That's appealing. It's just something that will be there all the time when I want to wear it, that will tell me what my blood sugars are doing. That I like. However, until I can get hold of one of them, these are the things I'll be using. They're £50 a fortnight, £100 a month. That means £1,200 a year, which is money I can't afford to spend. So what I'm doing is basically getting one every 3 months, £50 in every 3 months, £200 a year. I can wear that. Wear it. Sorry. So that I think is justifiable, and it means that right now I am getting myself tested for blood glucose every 3 months anyway. So it means I can test myself before, during and after my blood tests and just see how things are going, which is quite convenient. Why am I getting it done every 3 months? Well, it's because back in January last year, I was discovered to be 114, which is getting close to 3 times the safe levels, which should be 40. At the back end of last year, when I had my annual checkup, it was discovered that my blood glucose had already dropped to about the 40 mark. So I was told I could halve my medication. That's good. I went from 4 pills a day to 2. 3 months later, it was stable, still down. So I was taken off all medication. So I'm now free of drugs. And we're monitoring my bloods every 3 months to make sure that I don't go straight into type 2 diabetes again. Right now, I'm fully in remission. I am not eating chips, potatoes, rice, bagel. I miss my bagels. I'm not having beer. I'm not having bread. All these things are really bad for your bloods, especially if you're diabetic. So I am testing my bloods every 3 months, HbA1c and also blood glucose monitors, to make sure that I'm not going back into a diabetic state. If after the next blood tests with no drugs I'm still below 40, then that means I can start introducing the odd chips, maybe a slice of bread a couple of times a week, whatever it might be. But then with the blood glucose monitor, I can keep track on those things as well. So it's interesting. It's going to be fun to see what actually happens. But for now, that's the state we've got to. Now, I'm not too sure where else to go with my little YouTubes on diabetes. So I'm going to be thinking about different things I could talk about. If you've got any comments or questions, or if there's any areas you'd like me to go to, do please drop a link down at the bottom and I'll be happy to talk about it. In the meantime, if you've got a little bit of spare time, if you hit the like and share it and subscribe and all that sort of stuff, then that means that more people are likely to see my videos, which would be quite a nice thing for those who are actually diabetic. On the other hand, if you want to support the channel, then there's a link down the bottom to go to Patreon or buy me a coffee and all that sort of stuff. And I am actually drinking coffee right now, so there you go. That's all for now, folks. I'll speak to you shortly and take care. Cheers.